Once impurities had been removed from the clay slurry, the next task is to remove some of the water. The process is called thickening. At Wheelmartin, the slurry flowed from the bluing house straight into the 3 tanks below. Each tank could hold about 250 tons of slurry. However, due to increased demand for clay, 2 extra tanks were added in the early 20th century. The new tanks were at a higher level than the originals, so in 1902 the 18-foot wheel was installed to drive a small slurry pump. The pump could raise additional clay slurry when there was extra demand. Once the tanks were full, the clay slurry was left to settle for several days. Clear surface water was progressively drained off through buttonhole launders in the sides of the tanks. Once the clay slurry had reached the consistency of single cream, about 12% solids, a plug was removed and it drained into the larger tanks next to the pan kiln. The 5 lower settling tanks were filled and emptied in rotation, as it could take up to 3 months for the clay to reach the desired consistency of 30 to 40% solids, similar to clotted cream. The clay was then taken into the pan kiln for further drying. As the tanks were gradually emptied, rails and wagons were used to make the job easier. The first stage of the thickening process is much the same today, although on a much larger scale. This footage shows the Melodor refinery at St. Stephen. The large circular tanks are called hydro-separators. These hydro-separators are 43 meters in diameter and 4 meters deep. They can hold almost 6 million liters of slurry, roughly 2 Olympic swimming pools. A submerged rotating paddle gently separates the water which is run off at the tank edges. The second stage of the thickening process no longer takes months, as presses are now used to squeeze out excess water. Presses act like a large vice, squeezing a series of nylon pockets containing the clay slurry. This footage from the mid-1970s shows workers removing the pressed clay cakes prior to drying. The cakes would drop into a wagon below floor level for transportation into the kiln. A later development was the tube press, which could remove almost all of the remaining water.